writing, and I started a travel blog, and started working actually at the radio station kind of on accident. I started working for a college station, and I really liked it. And Cox has really been great about giving me different opportunities to kind of expand on what I do. So from there, because I was working with the travel blog and working with tourism boards and brands across the world, they started asking me to do their social media content management. So I started helping Long Island businesses, run their social media and understand how to produce content. And then, so both jobs kind of complement each other, and that kind of just worked out.
That's awesome. That's super awesome. So how did you actually get the position at Cox? I mean, you said they were obviously, interested in what you were doing previously. Did you approach them? Did they approach you? How did it come about?
So I actually started as an intern.
Oh, really?
I went back to school to take a bunch of digital courses because I graduated from college before social media really existed.
Me too.
And that was not a job you could do. I graduated from college in 2006.
Okay.
And so I had like a print journalism focus.
Sure.
And after a few years of traveling and kind of realizing that I wanted to do something within like writing, blogging is much more relevant,
Yeah.
so I started taking courses on blogging and digital media and like understanding how to create those kind of platforms. And I started working on a college news station, writing scripts for radio, doing my own on-air pieces. And I started loving it. And I was like, oh, you can totally incorporate writing into radio, and I think
Yeah,
that's
sure.
the of media communications is it is kind and broadcasting. It's kind of broad, you can do a lot of things with that degree, and it all falls under the same, training. So it just kind of worked out. So I started interning there, and then I joined the promotions team doing events. And from there, I was just kind of like, what else can I do? What can I learn? And so I started doing some administrative stuff in the building, front desk work. Then they asked me to take over the internship program. Then they asked me to help them with social media stuff. So now I kind of do like a mixed bag of things. I mean, obviously the internship program is my main focus.
Sure.
But I do a lot of social media work. I help with events, and they all kind of like go together. So they all complement each other, and every department kind of helps each other. So like radio is not one thing. It's usually like a lot of things, and usually you wear a lot of hats. So
Yeah. I'm sure. One thing I do want to add, I didn't let the students know something. Guys, you can ask questions. You can just type them to me, and I will ask Tianna any questions you have. I have a bunch of questions myself, but if you have any specific questions you'd like to ask her, just type them to me, and I will absolutely let her know. So just wanted to get that out of the way. So Tianna, how many stations does the Cox Media Group have? How many are under the umbrella?
Well, on Long Island, there's two. But we are in so many markets in the US, and we have, I'm trying to think, we have 6 or 7 radio markets, and each one of those markets has sometimes up to 5 stations.
Okay.
So, you're looking at 40 stations at least. And we just bought a Hispanic station that we're now running in Orlando and Miami. And we're really trying to build a diverse audience and focus on kind of the culture shift too in America. And
Sure.
So we're always, and it's not just radio stations. Cox Media Group is one of the largest media companies in the US. We own newspapers, TV stations, cable companies. We're heavy into automotive. We have Cox Automotive now, and also Cox Health Marketing. So, it's a broad spectrum media company.
Sounds it. So can you tell me a little about how, I mean, that's obviously a ton of stuff. Specifically with you though, like how the internship program works from your perspective?
Sure. So, the internship program used to be a little bit different. And ever since I took over, I tried to mold it from also speaking to former interns about what they thought worked and what they didn't like about it. And so I have now created a platform where you kind of go through various departments, and you can focus. If you're very focused on air, you can spend a lot of your time doing that. But it's also to make sure that you understand how all the departments work, so you can make a decision about where you really see yourself, and what really speaks to you. I know a lot of people come in wanting to do on air, but there's really so many more things that go on behind the scenes. Whether you want to work in sales or marketing or production or
Mhm.
programming, it's to help you kind of decide where your strong suits are and what drives you.
You know what's so interesting? I mean, I've been doing this kind of thing for a while. I've been involved with, audio and different things. And it's so interesting how many people like want to be on air talent, but then because of, internship programs, they start doing something else and don't realize like they actually love this other thing because they just don't know it's there and aren't truly introduced to it.
Yeah, and I think that like when we think about radio, we only think about what we're hearing coming out of like our car.
Yeah.
But those are like four jobs in the building. You know what I mean? Like the
Yeah.
amount of people who do on air, but the amount of people who work behind the scenes to make sure what you're hearing is worth listening to. I mean, being a marketing director or working in promotions, like these are the people who create the events and create the contests and create the content. And those are all jobs that you can have. And, I thought I wanted to do on air at one point too, but then I realized I really like the creative behind the scenes stuff. I really like
Sure.
being involved in building the brand and building the company more so than I really care about being what you hear coming out of the radio station.
Sure. And how long have you been working for Cox?
I've worked there for 8 years now.
Oh, that's quite a run. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really awesome. So, as far as hiring interns, how does an intern get hired? Like, just if they could, because a lot of these kids don't really know how the process works on your end. They know how it works a little bit on our end, but not really on your end. So, let's say they apply to an internship. How does it work from there?
So our internship program is a little bit more competitive because we pay our interns.
Awesome.
And so we're really trying to find people that we see having a future with us in any capacity. And so a lot of it is personality based, because we are in the business of communications, and the better you are at selling yourself and communicating, the better you'll do.
Sure.
I always say I can teach you how to edit, but I cannot teach you how to be charismatic and engaging. And
Yeah.
and that goes a long way, especially if you want to be an on-air personality, but just working in general in the business. But for me, basically, I interview everybody who sends me a resume, because I know a lot of people, this is the first time they're doing an interview. This is the first time they're sending out a resume. Where are you expected to get any sort of experience with interviewing or dealing with a company if people don't, answer you?
Yeah.
So I will phone interview everybody who sends me their resume, especially if they're broadcasting or media. If you're trying to go to law school, I'm probably not going to interview you. And then you have to do an in-person interview after I select the people that I think have done the best job on the phone. And then you come in and you meet with myself and my marketing directors. And, and from there, we usually only have 3 to 5 people a semester. Things are a little bit weird right now with COVID. We're not exactly sure what the spring semester is going to look like,
Okay.
but we're working on a variety of things, including possible virtual programs. And yeah, and like I said, a lot of getting chosen at the end has to do with, how well you present yourself in that interview and how much we can see you being a part of the company.
Okay. We actually got a couple questions in. Aaron McLaughlin, how did you get your start with Cox Media? Aaron, she answered that already, buddy. Please, come on, stick with it, Aaron. Someone actually, Christian Pastrana asked, how many interns are taken in each year? That's got to be quite a number.
Well, so each semester we do 3 to 5,
Okay.
to work with us. So some semesters are a little bit busier than others. Like summer, for instance, is obviously usually a very busy time for us. So we'll do 5 interns. And then if it's a little bit slower, like spring, we'll have 3. So it is a budgeted program as well. So we have to cap it somewhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, so usually it's about that many. I mean, I can't even tell you how many people I interview a semester, but
Oh, I'm sure it's significant. Yeah. Somebody just asked, and this is a good question. What is the work schedule like? Like as far as like how many, generally days of the week times? Kids are always curious about that with school and stuff like that and how things work out their schedule. Are you guys pretty flexible with that?
Yeah. So this is like the $1,000,000 question because I get this all the time and I almost don't even know how to answer it because we are very flexible. And the hours can range honestly by what works best for you and depending on what show you work on. So if you work on a morning show, you're going to be in the studio at like 6 o'clock in the morning, but you're going to be gone by 9.
Yeah.
Like you're going to be done, which means if you have later classes, it works. And a lot of times, like maybe you'll come back for a 2 o'clock meeting, but maybe you'll only be there Monday from 6 to 9 a.m. And then, you'll have another day off and you'll schedule all of your trainings on that day. So
Okay.
it's really up to the individual and the departments. So obviously, if a department can't fit you into the day that you're free, that can be unfortunate, but there's a lot of workaround with stuff like that.
Okay. I'm actually getting a ton of questions in. This is awesome, guys. Thank you. And everybody, please ask your questions through the Q&A if you could. That would be great. So the next one from Sean Lanigan. Sean has developed a passion for public speaking. He's a great mass comm student here at the moment. Can you explain more in every aspect why public speaking, not just in presentations and pitching ideas, how important it is in all aspects of the business? So you mentioned before, communication in general, but I guess he's asking, the importance of public speaking and how it can benefit you, not just as an on-air, but in general.
Well, I think it has not so much with having to worry about public speaking in the sense of like you're always talking to a lot of people, but it has a lot to do with communication in the sense that you're dealing with a lot of different departments, you're dealing with a lot of different personalities, you're dealing with clients, you're dealing with venues, you're dealing with all of these different things. And even as a part-time worker, our promotions team goes out and does stuff without managers. So they have to be able to present themselves in a respectful and professional way. And they have to be able to deal with difficult clients and difficult people that are like, whether they're listeners, you would think that listeners are always happy, but they are certainly not always happy.
Sure.
They definitely come to tell you you're doing things wrong and you have to know how to handle yourself. So, I mean, public speaking in the sense that like, you have to get used to presenting ideas and being willing to speak up in meetings that maybe you feel like you're not there yet and you need to be able to convey ideas, but you also just need to be able to handle a lot of different personalities. A lot of times I look for people who have customer service experience, and people do this all the time on resumes, and I cannot stress how you should not do this, and that's leave off your part-time jobs. Because I don't want to hire anybody who doesn't have work experience. And I'm not talking about experience in the field. You think that your jobs at restaurants or CVS or retail stores don't count, but they do so much because you're dealing with difficult people all the time and you're dealing with, nice people too, but you have to be cool under pressure. You have to know how to talk to people. Yeah. And I worked in the restaurant industry for 15 years, so I know how important it is.
I love that you bring that up because I could not agree more. That stuff is so important. And people always forget that, I worked at Starbucks. What does that have to do with working at Cox Media? But it has a lot to do with it because you're dealing with people every day. And Christy and I always talk about emotional intelligence and being able to read the room and understand did I make somebody feel uncomfortable? Is this good? Did I make them feel good? And seeing how to interact with people like that is so crucial when you would never know how to do that without prior experience doing anything.
Exactly. And also you understand work ethic and the value of your time. So you're not coming in and wasting our time, because I look at the internship as a deal we're making between each other. We're going to teach you things and we expect you to do good for us, just like I hope that we do good for you and you learn things and that this is a great experience. But, a lot of times if you're not pulling your weight, I mean, you can get kicked out of the internship, you're a paid employee when you're an intern with us, Sure. And people who go out and get part-time jobs, they understand the value of that. And that's super important because you might think that your job at Starbucks doesn't matter, but your job at Starbucks speaks volumes about communication, about work ethic, and also about corporate culture. You work for somewhere that has rules and regulations that you have to abide by. And, that's And that's not just for us. That's like just the real world, right?
In general,
Like, it's like your
absolutely.
job and you have to know how to do that. And the younger you start learning that, the better it'll be for you.
That was like the greatest possible answer you could have had to that. So thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. So somebody just asked, as far as obviously COVID has changed so many things, but the internships, they're already ongoing now for the fall semester, but when do you open up internships for the spring semester?
So, I just have like a rolling admission. If you send me a resume, I'll let you know what I'm interviewing for and what's open. Because
Okay.
sometimes it's like weird time periods. My goal is to start interviewing for the spring in November. However, we're still not, like I said, 100% sure what the spring is going to look like and how we're going to run an internship. We are currently running one intern doing a virtual program who was with us last semester and didn't get to finish her internship because they were there for like 3 weeks and then everything
Sure.
fell apart.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a experiment because we've never done this before. And we're working on some other stuff to see if, in case we do need to go virtually, what is the best way that students can, get something out of this. Like, we don't want you to just be sitting there. So
Yeah.
basically, I'm going to start interviewing, hopefully interviewing for the spring in November. So if you're interested in a spring internship, you can send me your resumes now. But then for the summer, I usually start interviewing super early, like January, because of the lengthy interview process. And it's a 12-week program and I have to start on time. So especially, I mean, this is also a before issue. I don't know what it's going to be like now. The summer tends to have a lot of students who are not from, like, either go to schools that are not around here, or they themselves are only here for the summer. So they have to be in and out in a certain time period. But I don't know what that'll look like if schools continue to be virtual. Then
Yeah.
the timeline is different. So
Yeah.
it's kind of hard to say specifics sometimes.
Sure. Sure. Yeah, and did you say you have one intern at the moment doing things virtually? Is that it? Just a single one?
Yes, did not
Okay.
interview or do anything for the fall semester because we were not trying to have an intern because
Yeah.
we didn't know what we were doing. Like, it was July and we had no idea if we were going back to the office or like
Sure.
what it would look like. And so I've kind of kept in touch with someone who had been with us last year and didn't get to do anything. So I was like, do you want to experiment with me?
Yeah. 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 Yeah, it's got that's such a weird part. I mean, I've talked to so many kids this semester about who are like trying to get internships, but it's like, get it, if you can, that's great. And I'm sure there are great ones out there, but it's also going to be very, very, very different to what it was prior and what it's even going to be in the spring, because odds are things will open up a bit more and,
Sure. I mean, who knows? It could be more of a hybrid situation where there are certain things that you're doing in the office and certain things that you're being expected to finish on your own. I'm working on a program that could be more project based, where you get taught something and then you create something from what you've been taught. A lot of this is hypothetical. Unfortunately, I wish I had more solid answers. I know it's not just for us, but for other companies, it's a budgetary issue too right now.
Oh,
I mean,
of course.
companies have lost like 50% of revenue in these situations.
Yeah,
And
big time.
it's hard. And unfortunately, these are the programs, and they shouldn't be, but these are the programs that start to get cut because you're trying to keep yourself above water. So where
Yeah.
we do always have at least one credit from the New York State Broadcasting Association every year that gets an intern that they pay for. So we are using credit right now. And in the future, if that ends up having to be the case, then we have to revise. But like, my hope is that things will go back to normal.
Yeah.
And I don't even want to say a new normal. I just want to say, relatively close to what it was, and we'll be able to go back to having people in the building and internships. And I try not to worry too much about what could happen because you just never know.
I agree. Someone just asked, I think I'm going to kind of rephrase this a little bit. They wanted you to explain the different fields and steps they could take to getting a job in mass communication. So let's say, somebody applies, they get an internship, then they're interested in getting a job. Like, any advice for somebody as far as like, either personality based or what they might be able to do? I mean, that's a very broad question, but in a general sense, yeah, that'd be great.
So, how about like if you're an intern, there's a lot of entry level positions, right? Um, we most people who come into the station start after their internship start as members of the promotions team. So they work in marketing, they do the events. They're out there interacting with our clients and listeners. From that, I have people who are now on air. I have people who are now in sales. I have people who work in digital capacities. Sometimes for us, we're not the largest location, in our markets like that we own. Long Island, actually, we have one of the smaller buildings, even though Long Island is market 19 in the US for radio. So that's really high because there's like 300 markets for radio.
Yeah.
New York City's number one. So people think that they live on Long Island and that they're starting in their hometown market, but your market is way bigger than most people's hometown markets.
Yeah.
So it is hard. It is competitive. You might have to leave the market if you really want to stay in radio and come back. I have people who left, got full-time shows in Ohio, and then now they work in the city because you have to go to smaller markets. But and you start part-time on air. Most people don't start with full-time positions on air, and it is an uphill battle. But if you don't want to do that, but you want to work in broadcasting, I mean, like I said, there's entry level in promotions, there's entry level in sales, there's entry level in digital, and sales isn't just going out and selling radio space. They have creative campaigns they make. There's a lot of digital marketing that's huge in sales now, whether it's creating Facebook campaigns or working on our web and social for the station. And those are all avenues that you can take if that's like what you're looking for.
That's great. One of our instructors actually asked, you mentioned it's a paid internship. Are there benefits with that as well, just out of strict curiosity, or is it just like a paid thing, or are they under the like any kind of medical or anything like that? I know that's a little bit of a weird one, but
no. So they're not under medical because they're considered a part-time employee, so then they don't get those benefits. However, when you're a paid employee, then you, first of all of your time is paid for, so you're not being forced to work like 40 hours in the city and having to pay your own stipends to get to and from or whatever.
Right.
But you get treated like an employee. You get invited to all of the things that are for employees. You can have access to all of the same information that we have, whether you're working on projects or, whatever the case may be, our equipment, creating your own demos. It is beneficial in the case that we decided to start paying our interns a few years ago, because I think maybe like 6 or 7 years ago now, because there were so many lawsuits.
Yeah, like Fox Searchlight and all that. Yeah,
for abusing their interns and basically, forcing them to work all these hours and not making any money. And so that's kind of why we do it, so that we don't have any issues. And all the work that you're doing is real work. You're not doing busy work. You're working on things that have to get done, that need to get done. You're working next to managers and other employees in all these departments. So I feel like it gives you a better idea of what it's like to work for the company.
I'm like, first of all, guys participating, thank you so much. There are like so many questions. I don't even know if I can get all of them. This is great. Somebody just asked, you mentioned before, you'd like to see people that have had jobs of any kind, specifically in the service industry or kind of customer service based. Are there any specific credentials outside of that, and or obviously they have to be in a program like this, I would assume, to do this, but they want to know if there are any credentials that you're looking for an internship position.
Honestly, no. It's good if you've been somewhere for a long time. I think, one of the questions that my marketing directors always ask when we do our in-person interviews is like, tell me a story about a time you had a difficult customer and how you turned it around, to make it a positive situation.
Yeah.
And it's really important to have a story for that. You don't know how many people come in and they can't.
Oh, I'll bet.
Oh yeah. And and I think that is really what we're looking for. Critical thinking, problem solving, keeping cool under pressure. That is stuff that we try to suss out during the interview. Obviously I want you to be interested in broadcasting in some way, but just coming in and telling me you love radio or you love music isn't really a reason to hire somebody in this field, considering that like everybody loves music. Like, is there anybody who would say that they don't? Like, so when it's like, why do you want to work in radio? If you can't come up with anything better than I love music, then you're gonna have a hard time getting through that interview because
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm sure you have some real doozies. I'm sure, maybe one day you can tell me some about it because that sounds hilarious.
Oh yeah.
Someone asked about broadcast journalism specifically. What kind of opportunities can broadcast journalism students find with internships? I would assume that's kind of a general thing, right? I mean, never mind. I'm so sorry. There are so many coming in right now. This is awesome. This is way cool. Someone asked about the best ways for people to intern at Cox. I mean, is it through personal connections or LinkedIn? I would assume just contact you directly. I mean, do you scout out things on LinkedIn? Should they apply that way? What's the best way to apply?
Just email me directly. I mean, I don't really scope out LinkedIn. I mean, first of all, I like going to career fairs and meeting people face to face because I think you already get a good feel for like personality and like, can gauge their like interest. I think that's the problem because a lot of people are like, this sounds like a cool internship, but it's like, I want you to really care about what you're doing. So.
Cool. Can you describe, actually, Christy was asking this, the Day in the Life program, what it is, was, and if you're going to continue to do that?
Actually, Christy, that's a great question. So Day in the Life is we invite in like 15 students to come to the station and they basically sit in on a seminar on a day in the life of every single department. So we filter through the different departments. They come in, they tell you about what they do, what their day-to-day is like, how they got there, what their responsibilities are, how they work with other departments. And, there's a Q&A section. Then we have an innovative learning experience where you guys compete in basically making, whether it's like a commercial or like an idea for something, it's always something different. So but it's like a critical thinking innovation project and you compete against each other to win money. I've actually taken a lot of interns from meeting them in Day in the Life.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's great. It's a great experience for me. I run the day, so I get to meet everybody and I get to talk to everybody. It's a good experience because like I was saying before, a lot of people don't understand all the back works of a radio station and all the different departments.
Sure.
Maybe you think you want to do on air, but you probably want to be a program director so you can decide what everybody listens to and you get to deal with all the new artists, but like whatever, like those kind of things come out of being part of Day in the Life. We are trying to do a virtual Day in the Life. It's something that we're working on. We've just started, but it is something that our company still really wants us to do. And something that we really want to do. We get so many diverse hires from Day in the Life, and it's a really great experience. And we get to work with a lot of different colleges. So that is something that we're definitely trying to continue, even if it has to be virtual, which I will tell Christy about when I have more information.
That's great. That's great. I mean, I get the vibe from just, obviously we've met a couple times, but even just talking to you now, you really do enjoy what you're doing and the company and itself. Can you speak a little bit? Somebody had a question about company culture as far as, is it, the corporate versus the more laid back thing? I mean, company culture has become much more of a thing in the last few years and the importance of it. So what is it like there at Cox for you and for everybody else?
Company culture is really important and I'm glad that's become like a thing. And I get that question a lot now, but so we're a big company, but we don't feel like it. And we have a lot of the resources that make it great to work there and a lot of connections and we get to do a lot of amazing things, but we feel like a family, and I enjoy going to work every day, and sure, there's some days that are, more stressful than others.
Sure.
But I love what I do. I love the people that, I work with. We have a saying and it's like, we win with our people. And I truly believe that that's what makes the difference. Like, even our CEOs, our higher ups, like they're very involved. They care a lot. And it's nice to see, like, for example, with everything that's been going on, like the CEO of our company has been very forthcoming with wanting to be progressive in making sure that everybody feels comfortable, that everybody is represented. And this is a really nice thing to see when a lot of companies aren't doing that. And, it makes you feel like you're in a safe environment and that you work with people who care about you.
Awesome. That's super awesome. What is your favorite part of what you do?
I love interviewing.
Do you really? Oh, that's great.
People think that's crazy, but like I love talking to students and young people, and I have older students too who come through the program. Age isn't really anything to do with it. I was an older intern, and there's no time that you stop learning, so it shouldn't matter. You can create and recreate yourself a million times, but I forgot where I was going with that. What was the question?
It was, what's your favorite part of your job? You said you love interviewing.
So interviewing, because I love finding new talent and people who are really excited and watching them grow in the company. And even if they don't stay with us, I mean, I've had interns who end up at ESPN, who work, for Arizona sports teams doing broadcasting, and people keep in touch with me and let me know what they're doing. And that's so exciting to me that, like, I got them when they first started and now they're doing all these great things.
That's awesome. We have 2 more questions, and then I think we're actually almost out of time. This flew by, so thank you. Before I worked at 5 Times, I worked in audio and stuff, and I went on a lot of interviews. And since you say you love interviewing, I have to ask you this. Like, when I remember the first time somebody asked me, what are your 3 greatest strengths and 3 greatest weaknesses? And, the strengths, everybody's like, oh, I'm hardworking, I'm punctual, I'll do whatever it takes. But the weakness one, I don't know if you ask that, and if you do, what are answers you're looking for? Because I remember when somebody asked me that, I was like, I just love too much, or something like that. Something kind of, sometimes I just care a little bit too much. What do you think a good answer for that question is when somebody's like, oh, what do you think some weaknesses you have as a worker are? And that's because people don't like to be critical in that way, so.
Yeah, of course. And that's a hard thing, right? Because you don't know what someone's looking for. So for us, I think it's like, it's a lot of people, some people say things like, I'm late all the time, and I'm like, don't say that. Like,
of course. Yeah.
People often say like, oh, I have a problem delegating work because I want to be able to do everything. People who are, I guess, like, if you have a type A personality and you need to be in control, like, that's something that we hear a lot. And that and that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's, if you're working on learning how to delegate work, that's a good answer. If you're working on, and if you're late, you should just say like you work on time management, like you put things off to the last minute. It sounds way less, bad than when people are like, oh, I got fired from my last job because I could never show up on time. Okay, don't be that honest. Like, don't ever be that honest.
Yeah.
Put a good spin on it, And yeah, so I guess it's that. It's sometimes like people will say they consider themselves leaders, or they consider themselves like part of the team. So that's something they're working on. Like, if you're always just a part of the team, maybe you could say, I really want to be able to take on more and become more of a leader, and like, because I'm a little shy. Like, that's a really great thing to say about yourself. And I'm sure a lot of people feel like that. And I'm sure some people who say that, like, I've had people say that they're leaders and they're trying to become better at listening to everybody else and being part of a team and not trying to control a project.
That's great. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. I was stuck there. This guy would not let me not answer 3. He said, I need 3. I gave him 1, I gave him 2. I couldn't think of a third. I sat there sweating for 5 minutes. I was like, dude, this is like a form of torture. This is not okay.
Too much though, if someone seems like they can't answer a question, we roll over it,
Good. That's great.
We're not going to like try to bulldoze you. Like,
okay. So I lied. We actually have 2 more from now. Chrissy just asked a really good one. What are some tips you have for a virtual interview? If because obviously that's something that's going on a lot now. And I always tell people, I'm a big film guy. I always think about semiotics, like what's in frame. I mean, this is, we're doing this right now, but if I was at my house, I would have very specific things behind me. And I think about that and how you dress. So what about you? And as far as like a virtual interview, any tips for that?
Yeah, so I actually haven't really had to interview anybody virtually yet. But I mean, I guess we have a few times when we've had people be out of state when we were running things too. But I think, yeah, having a good, like, have your background just be a blank wall. Like, don't have your messy room in it for sure. Like,
Yes.
you
Yes.
should care a little,
Yeah.
it's probably good for you to have some more talking points just so that, like, like, have a good introduction, like when you come on screen, don't just be like, hi, like, be immediately like, hey, I'm so excited to be here, like, da 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 da, because that really does set a tone for a meeting. And when you're virtual and you're not necessarily seeing as much body language and you're not able to recover maybe as fast, it's good to be high energy. Don't be too high energy, but be engaging immediately, because that greeting really will, like, set us to be like, oh, hey, like, this is so great, like, and that's really important.
That's great. This is a good question. This is from Millie. How important is having professional social media accounts when it comes to an internship within the media? As far as I'm assuming she means, like, them looking professional, and because that's the thing, certainly when looking for work, you want to, like, probably veer out of political things, veer out of, like, hey, me partying with my friends in Cabo last weekend, stuff like that. So how important is your social media face when it comes to that kind of thing?
So I don't ever check anybody's social media before we hire them. It is something that, like, once you get hired, you do sign something saying that you won't, post anything inappropriate or controversial, or and not necessarily political, because it's okay to have political opinions on, like, I mean, I post political stuff, but I don't post, like, derogatory or like, or foul language or, like, that kind of stuff. Um, we're more about not posting about other media companies.
Okay, that
So
makes
it's like,
sense.
if working for Cox Media and for BLI and BAB, I'm not allowed to be in photos with other stations' logos that are local.
Interesting. That makes
Um,
sense, but yeah,
yeah, because then you're not representing the brand, right? Why do I work
sure.
for BLI but I'm going to Jingle Ball? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
So it's more about that. I mean, I honestly would think that you shouldn't be posting anything on your public social media forums that you wouldn't want your parents to see, because eventually that stuff will matter. I mean, do you want that to be there when a company like us does a background check on you? Like, probably not. And you probably shouldn't be posting that stuff anyway. But yeah, so I don't usually check beforehand. I don't always think that's fair. And we're not really allowed to check before, but once you're hired, then it can become an issue.
Yeah, that's great. So Christy is here. She is muted and not on screen at the moment. Christy, if you can hear me and you'd like to maybe jump in, throw your O'Rourke 2 cents in, that would be lovely. I don't know. Can you imagine if she was just not there at the moment? We're talking to no one. I'm getting the vibe that might be the case.
I
Yes!
am here.
Yes!
I am here.
So yeah, Christy,
Apologize to see me.
now we can see you. So Christy fed me a couple questions that were awesome. But Christy, we have about, probably, I think Calendar said we have about 5 minutes left. Do you have anything specifically you'd like to ask Tianna? You've obviously known her a long time and know a lot of people that have gone to Cox and stuff like that. So anything you'd like to ask?
No, you're awesome, Tianna. You've done an outstanding job, and I love how you run that internship program. It's fantastic, and kudos to you. And I guess you know what? I don't want to take up from the students, though, too.
I think they kind of tapered off. I got through all of the ones that made sense. Yeah.
Okay, good. I'm not sure whether you covered it, but like the work ethic, like what do you look for in, I think you may have tipped on this a bit, like the work ethic for an internship. Like what would make you say this intern, their work ethic, they're getting hired, or they're meant for radio? Like what are those, like, little tips there that you would
So,
see?
so what I look for is, like, people who take a lot of initiative. So, okay, you have the internship, right? And you're doing all the things you're supposed to be doing. You're working on events, whatever, but you're showing up, like, on time or a little late. You're maybe not going to all the meetings you're setting up. You seem disengaged. I understand that not every department is going to be the department that you want to work in.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't treat doing that with respect and with energy, why would anybody trust you with more than that? you
Mhm.
know, and I've worked with people who, a perfect example. I don't know if you guys listen to BLI regularly, but Ali just became the morning show producer for Psych and MJ, and she has her own nighttime show now.
Mhm.
She was my intern,
Oh,
and
wow.
she wanted to do on air, and that's what she wanted to do. But
That's
she
awesome.
said yes to every single thing we asked her to do, and she did it with the same amount of enthusiasm that she brings on air. So I knew she had a great work ethic, and I knew she cared about doing better, because it didn't matter if I was asking her to answer phones and do winter phone calls, or if she was, doing something for the morning show. She went at it with the same sort of, respect and excitement that she went for everything. And that is a great example of, like, yeah, sure, you're setting up a tent, but set up that tent better than everybody else, and then you'll have a job, and it's easy to be a standout intern in those cases.
Absolutely. That's exactly the message I wanted to get through to the students because, I always say if you have to be takeout, get a cup of coffee, make the best cup of coffee. I mean, it
Yeah.
doesn't matter the task, it's how you approach the task. And that's
Yeah,
awesome. Thank you.
it's very true.
Thank you for that.
We won't have you get coffee, but there's a joke that my
Anything.
marketing director always makes, that the only person you have to get coffee for is me. So it's just funny.
That's cute. That's cute. Well, thank you so much, Tianna. You were wonderful, and we love our mass comm students. Thank you, Professor Calangelo, and of course Ryan. And I don't know if you have any last words, Ryan, but
Well,
thank
just
you.
Tianna, if the kids are interested in internship and want to get in touch with you, what's the process? How should they do it?
So send me an email, send me a resume, send me a little blurb about yourself. Tell me you came to this. I know right now I'm still holding on to resumes for spring. I haven't started interviewing yet. But also, if you have more questions or you want to just pick my brain about some stuff, you can shoot me an email. I'll always answer. I don't mind, even if it's not about, radio, if you have other questions about the industry or whatever. But yeah, just send me resumes. The earlier you send me resumes, the better. Even if you're not looking for a spring internship, you can tell me, oh, I want to do summer, and I'll put you with, my summer folder, and I'll get back to you.
Awesome.
Great.
Well, Christy, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, so your email, do you want us to funnel through, or we can work that out, or we can have it posted on the mass comm board? However, we can talk about that too later so that the students
Yeah,
have
that's
that
fine.
direct.
Any way that's the easiest way for you to get it out to people, I'm fine with.
Okay, great.
Awesome. Well, Tianna Gratta from Cox Media, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Yeah, this was great. And thank you for all the students for participating. This is my last event. I'm actually leaving Five Towns. Bye. I know, I'm moving to Savannah. Come visit. It's awesome. Yeah, I'm going down there in a couple weeks to go work. But it was a pleasure meeting you, doing this.
Yeah, you too.
Awesome. Always awesome. Big time. And I think that's it for now.
Ryan.
You too,
Yep.
buddy. You too. But yeah, thank you so much. And we'll talk later.
Yep. Sounds
Thank
good.
you. Bye.
Thanks,
Thanks,
everybody.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.